Welcome to Rotterdam for one of the 3 marathon races run in Europe this weekend. What with the Boston Marathon tomorrow, Monday, this makes for really the spring festival of marathon running. Well, we saw the London Marathon won by Katrin Dora and Eamon Martin this morning. The Vienna Marathon was won by Carlos Patricia of Portugal. We're just taking a look at the Rotterdam course. This is probably the flattest marathon course in the world, going up there past the Euromast and the Kralingsbos, coming back towards the centre of Rotterdam, a town that was virtually destroyed, flattened during the war, so it's now one of the most modern cities in Europe. Across the Willemsbrücke, down past the Feyenoord Stadium at the half marathon point. We're going to be picking up the race round about there in a few minutes' time. A bit cooler than London actually, around about 10 degrees at the start, but a threat of rain which turned into a reality. Coming between the 25 and 30 kilometre mark to the Zuiderpark, and then the run-in back across the Willemsbrücke to make up the 42.195 kilometres of the marathon course. As I said, we saw a wonderful race in London earlier on today. Katrin Dora successfully defended her title, beating Lisa Ondieki and Liz McColgan. Eamon Martin won his debut marathon against Isidro Rico and Gregor Gaidas, Rico of Mexico and Gaidas of Poland. 10 degrees Celsius. There's the lineup for what is a very tight start. At this point last year, Ahmed Salah of Djibouti, who only finished 8th in London today, he fell after about 5 metres. Was run over by a couple of hundred other of his competitors and didn't get up and continue the race. Salah did somewhat better today. He finished the London Marathon, but only in 8th position. This is the start of the Rotterdam race. Much cooler wind than there was in London a couple of hours earlier. These are the highlights we're going to be showing you. And now as highlights of Rotterdam 93. Probably the fastest marathon course in the world. Vincent Rousseau of Belgium is in there as a pacemaker, as he was back in 1988 when the world record of 2 hours 6 minutes and 50 seconds was set on this Rotterdam course. The 3 fastest ever times have been set on this course. 2:06.50 of Densimo in 88, Ahmed Salah 2:07.07, finishing second in that same 88 race. Carlos Lopes of Portugal, the Olympic champion from 1984, he ran 2:07.12 back in 1985. The rain threatening here, just beginning to spit down, but it's going to get much, much worse later on during the race, and is going to be a contributory factor. Around about 10,000 people, compared to the 30,000 or so that started in London a couple of hours earlier this morning. No less enjoyment for all that. Much tighter start than the London Marathon. They split into 2 here, but still the same slow jogging on the spot start for everybody other than the first 100 or so. This race here in Rotterdam has been won by some of the great marathon runners of the last 20 years or so. Rob de Castella, who in his farewell race in London today finished 33rd in 2:19.44. De Castella won back in 1983, an absolutely sensational race against Carlos Lopes and against Alberto Salazar. That was the same year that De Castella went on to win the World Championship, the inaugural world title in Helsinki in 1983. De Castella won again in 91. Lopez won the marathon, the Olympic marathon in 84. He won here in Rotterdam in 85, 2:07.12, 3rd fastest time ever. Then of course Beleni Densimo of Ethiopia in 88 ran 2:06.50. Vincent Rousseau of Belgium is in there to set the same sort of pace as he did for Densimo. Well, that's the start of the Rotterdam Marathon. Please join us at the halfway mark in a couple of minutes' time. Welcome back to the Rotterdam Marathon. As you can see, we're moving between the 25th and 30-kilometre mark. Vincent Rousseau, their number 76 of Belgium, was in as a pacemaker up till around about this mark here. That's another pacemaker, Sami Maritim of Kenya. And we're down to a leading group of two who've got roughly 30 metres lead. Mexico. Willie Motolo of South Africa won the New York Marathon 6 months ago. That's one of the Ethiopians, Tesfaye Dadi. Back to the front, however, 50 metres in the lead in what is turning out to be an absolutely appalling day. Weather was 10 degrees at the start. It's more or less maintained that temperature, but the rain has been pouring down incessantly since about 2 or 3 kilometres. There is a wind, and the runners began to complain of the cold at round about this 26-27 kilometre mark. Vincent Rousseau, the pacemaker, as he was when Beleni Densimo of Ethiopia set the world best time of 2 hours 6 minutes and 50 seconds on this course 5 years ago. The weather conditions, however, are militating against a fast time today, albeit Rousseau has done a tremendous job. He's been doing every 5 kilometres in roughly 5 minutes. That's the leading pair. Rousseau is joined by Naali. That's Simon Robert, the eldest of the 3 Robert Naali brothers. Thomas dropped out at 10 kilometres in the London Marathon early on today, injured his knee. Well, Rousseau wasn't expected to run much past the 25-kilometre point. He took a look at his watch there, but he is on a bonus for every extra 5 kilometres that he covers. He started a marathon 4 or 5 times, Rousseau. In fact, he started this marathon the last 4 or 5 years. He was also a pacemaker, incidentally, when Arturo Barrios of Mexico set the 20,000 metres track record and the 1-hour track record. So he's very much the world's leading pacemaker, Rousseau. Now, that's world record pace, 1:30.13. As you can see, they're already some minute and a half outside of that. So at the moment, we're looking for a finishing time of round about, well, I should say 2 hours, 10 minutes, the way things are going. However, 76 Rousseau of Belgium, one of the pacemakers. There's a group of 7 away. Those two, Simon Robert Naali, number 7, Vincent Rousseau, number 76. They've got about a 50 metres lead on the Ethiopian Tesfaye Dadi. On Willie Motolo, Dionicio Ceron of Mexico. They're the 2 race favourites, Motolo and Ceron. Also in there is a Japanese, Toshiyuki Hayata, 3rd in Tokyo just over a year ago. There he is, number 6, that's the Japanese. We're looking at Dadi, this is the Ethiopian, number 22, Tesfaye Dadi. One of several Ethiopians seeking political asylum in Europe at the moment, Dadi. That's Hayata of Japan. Had an excellent debut, 3rd in Tokyo. Number 2 is Ceron of Mexico. Running with the other race favourite there, William Tullow of South Africa, who won the New York race 6 months ago. Ceron incidentally finished 2nd here in 1991 when Rob de Castella of Australia had his 2nd victory in this race. Back to the front, however, that's the pacemaker we're concentrating on, Vincent Rousseau. Very good track runner, Rousseau. 1,500 metres, he's done 3:36. That's Ceron leading the chasing group some 50 metres back. Dionicio Ceron of Mexico, just in front of William Motolo, and just in front of Toshiyuki Hayata of Japan, and a few metres off the pace is Tesfaye Dadi of Ethiopia. Back to the lead, however, Simon Robert Naali certainly will not know that he's one of his younger brothers. There are 3 brothers. This is Simon Robert. Thomas Robert Naali dropped out of the London Marathon after 10 kilometres today. And there is another Naali, or Robert Naali. That's Francis Robert Naali. All three excellent, excellent marathon runners. Thomas, incidentally, ran London as a pacemaker last year, stayed in the race and finished third. Now, I think Naali's not quite sure what Rousseau is up to, because Rousseau was supposed to drop out at around about 25 kilometres, but if he was feeling good, and I suspect he is, he's going to stay in there for subsequent 5Ks, because he's on a bonus for each further 5K that he covers. That's the 30 kilometres mark, 1:32.21, almost 2 minutes outside world record pace. We can forget that today. There's a very cooling wind and rain. The athletes are really suffering out there, except for Rousseau, incidentally. Hates the heat, and that's probably why he's still in there after 25 kilometres, which is the point at which he was going to drop out. That's Dionicio Ceron of Mexico. Behind him, William Matolo, New York winner 6 months ago. Hayata of Japan is in there. Dadi of Ethiopia is in there. And back of them, Harri Hänninen of Finland. At about the 30... coming up to 32k now. Rousseau is still talking to Simon Robert Naali there. Don't know whether he's telling him that he's going to stay in the race or for him to carry on. That's Matolo just gone out of frame, and Ceron. That's Hayata we're concentrating on there. Made his debut last year in Tokyo. As I said, an excellent debut race, 2:10.37. And he finished third behind Koichi Morishita and Takayuki Nakayama, who finished second and fourth respectively in the Olympic marathon subsequently in Barcelona. They did much slower because that was a very difficult course in Barcelona for the Olympic marathon last summer. Hayata looks round, and this weather is very different to the Barcelona experience. Two race leaders, 50 metres up on that chasing group. Taking another look there at Hayata. "24 years of age, Hayata. 1:76 meters, it's about 5'10". This is his second marathon. Best 10 kilometre time, 10,000 metres on the track, 28:17. Vincent Rousseau, in contrast, we saw briefly there up at the front with Simon Robert Naali. I said he's got a 3:36.15 100 metres time. He's done a 10,000 metres in 27:50. Not this man, 28:17 is his best 10,000 metre time. Very cool conditions now. Simon Robert Naali has won the Honolulu Marathon a couple of times. Also won Stockholm. His best is when he finished second in the Commonwealth Games back in 1990 in Auckland, did 2:10.38, Naali. We have a Japanese camera crew here. A lot of interest in Japan, which is why we're concentrating on Hayata. But at the moment he's back in 5th place in only his second marathon, having finished third in Tokyo about 14 months ago. Worsening weather conditions. They're turning very cold now for the runners after incessant rain, which began after about 2k. However, still in the lead, Simon Robert Naali and Vincent Rousseau. Rousseau of Belgium, who started as a pacemaker, should have dropped out at about 25k. And there's some of the disconsolate runners who seem to have dropped out of the race. Now, these are the two chasing athletes. As I say, William Matolo of South Africa on the left, Dionicio Ceron of Mexico on the right. Ceron finished second in this race 2 years ago to Rob de Castella. Well, these guys are toughing it out now. Conditions not quite what they expected. They knew it wasn't going to be very warm, but 10, 12 degrees as it was in London a couple of hours before this race, or before this point in this race rather. But at least the rain held off in London. The rain has been pouring down in Rotterdam since kilometre 2. We are now into kilometre 33 roughly. So 9k to go for these men. That's well, we've gone shot back to the lead there. Simon Robert Naali has a step or two's lead over Vincent Rousseau. Naali of Tanzania, one of a spate of very good Tanzanian marathon runners. Naali leads from Rousseau. This is a case of just how long Rousseau is going to last. Weather is really to his liking, probably to his liking more than anybody else in this field today. Made the pace when Belani Densimo of Ethiopia set the world best marathon time, 2 hours 6 minutes and 50 seconds on this same course, fastest marathon course in the world. That was back in 1988. And that looks like Willie Matolo of South Africa. It is indeed. He's lying third at the moment. That's Dionicio Ceron in the foreground left, Mexican, who finished second in this race 2 years back. These two men started as the race favourites. Matolo because he won New York 6 months back. Didn't run in the Olympic Games, Matolo, although South Africa had been readmitted by that time. Matolo was ill when the South African selection race was held in Cape Town just about a year ago. But he won a race in Holland, in Enschede, in June. So he won his 2 marathon races last year. He did 2:13:39 in Enschede, Matolo, just dropping behind Dionicio Ceron of Mexico here. We're around about the 33 kilometers mark. Matolo takes a look back. Still worsening conditions, still pouring with rain. It may not be very cold in theory. Just back there, about 100 meters beyond, you can see Hayata of Japan in his second marathon race of his relatively young career, 24 years of age. Matolo, in contrast, is 28. Back to the leaders. Rousseau still talking to Simon Robert Naali, one of the 3 Naali brothers. Well, Rousseau is sticking it in there. He's gone at least 8 kilometers further than he originally intended. Still cutting out a decent pace. They're around about 2 hours 10 pace. London Marathon men's race, incidentally, won in 2 hours 10 minutes and 50 seconds by marathon debutant Eamon Martin this morning. Vienna Marathon was won in 2 hours 11 seconds precisely by Carlos Patricia of Portugal. Second in that Vienna race was Karol David, who was last year's winner from the Czech Republic, 2:13:16. Nikolai Tabak of the Ukraine was third. This is the Rotterdam Marathon, the fastest marathon course in the world, but the weather conditions are really militating against the fast time today. Man in the foreground, Vincent Rousseau, helped Densimo of Ethiopia to the world record 5 years ago. He's been the pacemaker in this race for the last 5 years. He was supposed to be dropping out around about kilometre 25, but he gets a bonus for every further 5 kilometres that he covers. Alongside him, or in fact a stride or so in front, is one of the 3 Tanzanian brothers, all named Robert Naali. This one is Simon Robert Naali. Thomas Robert Naali dropped out of the London Marathon earlier today after 10 kilometres. Concentrating on Rousseau of Belgium. I was mentioning his best track times: 1500 meters 3:36, 5000 meters 13 minutes 15 seconds, by far the fastest track man in the field. 10,000 meters 27:50. Those are all world-class track times from 1500 through to 10,000. There he is. Says he's not too interested in Stuttgart World Championships later this year. Although if he stays in here and finishes, he's certainly going to be inside the Belgian selection time. So in the lead at the moment, Simon Robert Naali of Tanzania, Vincent Rousseau of Belgium. Catching them, but still about 30-40 meters back, are the 2 race favourites, Willie Matolo. There they are, Willie Matolo. In fact, they're a little further back. Willie Matolo of South Africa and Dionicio Ceron of Mexico. His compatriot Isidro Rico finished second in the London Marathon this morning in 2:10:53, just 3 seconds behind Eamon Martin. This is the Rotterdam Marathon. We're into round about the 39th kilometre. 2 leaders there. Number 7, Simon Robert Naali of Tanzania. 76, originally a pacemaker. Vincent Rousseau of Belgium, but looking very good indeed. Now we shall be back with the rest of the Rotterdam Marathon in a couple of minutes' time. Incessant rain since kilometre 2 of this morning's Rotterdam Marathon has meant that fast times have gone out of the window. That in fact is number 2 leading number 1, Dionicio Ceron of Mexico, second in this race 2 years ago. He's just in front of William Tullow of South Africa, but they're lying in 3rd and 4th places at the moment. Up in the lead, quite a few metres in front of them still, Simon Robert Naali of Tanzania, and the pacemaker, who is still in there, although he intended originally to drop out at 25k. We're up to 35 and more kilometres, and that is Vincent Rousseau of Belgium. And there they are. They look to be struggling a bit now, Rousseau and Simon Robert Naali. And I think Rousseau is... it may just have been a bit of tactics, I think. Rousseau suddenly spurted ahead. He's been talking to Naali for about the last 10 kilometres. Was given the task of leading through the half in round about 2:50, 2 hours 3 minutes. That was just outside that. Very good pacemaking, certainly up to the 20 kilometres, reeling off the 5Ks in just over 15 minutes each. Just over 1:47. We're moving up towards the 35 kilometres point, and there's still about a minute's running away from that. Simon Robert Naali of Tanzania leads from Vincent Rousseau of Belgium.
En als ze nog in de buurt willen uitkomen van 2 uur en 10 minuten, dan moeten we even naar de klok kijken.
Rain still pouring down here in Rotterdam. They may have the flattest course in the world, but they certainly haven't had the most clement weather today. Not so much need for refreshment there for Simon Robert Naali. He ignored that drink being offered by a steward and in fact puts in another burst. He's wondering just what on earth Vincent Rousseau is doing there. Rousseau was the pacemaker up to 25 kilometres. That's the point at which he was going to drop out. In fact, he's certainly dropped back now. Simon Robert Naali's taken the initiative at 35 kilometres. In fact, they're just approaching the 35 kilometre mark. That's to say they've got just over 7 kilometres to run in the 1993 Rotterdam Marathon. Naali looks at his watch. He's got about 15 metres on Vincent Rousseau. But also in there, Dionicio Ceron of Mexico, Willy Mutolo of South Africa, Toshiyuki Hayata of Japan, Harri Hänninen of Finland. Well, they're over 3 minutes outside world record pace now. That world record set here 5 years ago by Beleni Densimo of Ethiopia. Not heard much of him for the last couple of years. Densimo had injuries. It's an occupational hazard in the marathon. This man's younger brother, Thomas Robert Naali, had to drop out of the London Marathon this morning at 10 kilometres with a knee injury. However, Simon Robert Naali of Tanzania, twice winner of the Honolulu Marathon, winner of the Stockholm Marathon, silver medalist in the Commonwealth Marathon in Auckland 1990, is leading with 7 kilometres to run in the 1993 Rotterdam Marathon. not had such a good time of it over the last couple of years, incidentally, although he won Honolulu twice. He was only 8th last year, also 19th in the Berlin Marathon. But he certainly put some space between himself and Rousseau, who appears to be going to finish today. Started this marathon for the last 5 years as a pacemaker, done a very good job, as he did on the track for Arturo Barrios. That's Bert van Vlaanderen, one of the Dutch runners. He's won this, now Van Vlaanderen is another good case in point. He was someone who started as a pacemaker 3 years ago and actually carried on and did a very good time, 2 hours 12. And he's well on his way to his 3rd Dutch championship, Van Vlaanderen. So we're talking about Thomas Robert Naali, who started London last year as a pacemaker and carried on and finished 3rd. And we've got in there, ahead of Van Vlaanderen here, we've got Vincent Rousseau of Belgium, who started as the pacemaker, as he has done for the last 5 years. And Rousseau looks as if he may finish the first of half a dozen marathons that he started. That looks like Hayata. It is indeed Hayata being caught by Van Vlaanderen, who's really come from a way back here. Hayata at one stage was 5th in this race. He may still be, if we can move up and see exactly where Mutolo of South Africa and Ceron of Mexico are, but they're not in. In fact, I think we've got another interloper. That's Harri Hänninen of Finland. Has passed Hayata. Hänninen ran very well in London last year. Did 2 hours 12. (2:12:29) in fact in London. Went on to finish 11th in the Barcelona Olympic Games, 2:15:19. Much tougher course, however, and much hotter. Now we're whizzing up to the head of the field here. We should be finding Willie Mutolo of South Africa, Dionicio Ceron. There they are. Ceron has got 5, perhaps 10 meters lead. There's Rousseau of Belgium. Originally the pacemaker, he's hanging in there in race conditions that certainly suit him, but way up ahead, Simon Robert Naali of Tanzania has got at least 50 meters now on Rousseau, whom we're seeing here, number 76. Certainly slowing considerably, Rousseau, but looks as if he's going to finish today. There's a vague sense of a smile on his face. He started this race half a dozen times and has dropped out every time because he was the pacemaker. He was offered an extra bonus for each 5 kilometers further than 25 that he went today. Well, he's almost at 40 kilometers now. We've got about, well, less than 20 minutes left to run for Simon Robert Naali of Tanzania. This is by far his best race for a couple of years for the Tanzanian. He's had to give best to his younger brothers in the last couple of years. Thomas Robert Naali finished 3rd in the London Marathon last year. This is Dionicio Ceron of Mexico, just about to pass Vincent Rousseau of Belgium. So Ceron of Mexico, who finished 2nd in this race 2 years ago to Rob de Castella. It was de Castella's swan song at London this morning, finished 33rd in 2 hours 19. Ceron finished 2nd 2 years ago to de Castella, and he moves ahead of Vincent Rousseau, who is now in 3rd place. Willie Mutolo must be somewhere back there. Yes, he is, through the rain on the cameras. Quite extraordinary downpour here in Rotterdam, which began after a couple of kilometers. Simon Robert Naali of Tanzania looks back. He will see Dionicio Ceron. This man, Willie Mutolo, South Africa, probably the race favourite before the start, due to that big win in New York last October. 2 hours 9 Mutolo did. He has done 2:08. But that was on a point-to-point course at Port Elizabeth back in 1986, when South Africa was not admitted to the International Amateur Athletic Federation because of their apartheid policies. Willie Mutolo of South Africa, number 1, is catching pacemaker Vincent Rousseau. No longer the pacemaker, I think he's in there to the death. Up ahead of him, Simon Robert Naali of Tanzania and Dionicio Ceron of Mexico. This is Rousseau. And in fact, Ceron has put on such a great burst. He's caught the race leader and is in fact now the leader himself. Dionicio Ceron of Mexico, number 2, passes Simon Robert Naali, the long-time race leader, along with pacemaker Vincent Rousseau, who is still in there, but now in 4th place. First prize here, incidentally, same as London early on today, same as Boston tomorrow, $55,000. Rousseau being caught by Willie Motolo of South Africa. So the race now stands as Dionicio Ceron leads, Simon Robert Naali is 2nd, Willie Motolo is 3rd, Vincent Rousseau is 4th, and I think it's probably Harri Hänninen of Finland 5th. Robert Naali trying to hang in there with Ceron, who certainly is forcing the pace. Dionicio Ceron of Mexico, 2nd 2 years ago to Rob Di Castella, looking very good at the moment. He's caught and passed a long-time race leader, Simon Robert Naali. That's Willie Motolo, who's now established himself in 3rd place. Still appalling conditions, the rain is still falling. Temperature is still around about 9-10 degrees Celsius, but cold rain means that the runners won't be able to maintain an adequate temperature to keep sufficiently warm. Certainly not those runners who were half an hour back of these men. Dionicio Ceron has made a break for victory. He's got about 15 minutes running left to do in this 1993 Rotterdam Marathon. And Ceron is looking very good indeed. That's his personal best, which he set when he won the Oita Japan race early last year. That's the winner in New York last autumn, Willie Motolo of South Africa. He ran 2:09.29 when he won in New York. He's lying in 3rd place now. He's a fair way off from catching the race leader Ceron again. He ran with Ceron for a very long time. They broke away from their pursuers. That's Simon Robert Naali. He's now in 2nd place. Must be at least 40 meters down on Dionicio Ceron of Mexico. Now, unless something drastic happens, it looks as if Ceron of Mexico is away to victory here in Rotterdam. Rain spoiled any chance of another world record time. They were, however, on world record time up to about 20 kilometers. That time set by Vincent Rousseau of Belgium, who is still in there, lying in 4th place. That's Naali in 2nd. Yeah, perhaps 30 meters behind Ceron of Mexico. Looks as if he's about to go one better than 2 years ago when he finished 2nd to Rob Di Castella, the Australian who finished his career in London this morning in 2nd place, rather in 33rd place. That's Willie Motolo lying 3rd. That's Ceron of Mexico lying 1st. Less than 15 minutes to run for Ceron. This is the man in 3rd place. Simon Robert Naali is in between Ceron and Motolo. There is Ceron again. He's 2:08.36 in Oita in Japan in February last year, 2nd of February. Places him 21st on the all-time list. Some great Mexican marathon runners. We saw another one of them in London earlier on today. Isidro Rico was out-kicked at the finish by Eamon Martin in his debut marathon. Rico finished 2nd. His countryman, another great Mexican marathon runner, Dionicio Ceron, here looks as if he's going to go one better than Rico and looks as if he's going to win the Rotterdam Marathon here. Coming up to the 2 hours mark, he's in kilometer 38. Marathon distance 42.195 kilometers. Ceron looks very good now. He'd really rushed away from long-time race leader Simon Robert Naali about 1.5 kilometers ago, and he really made that tell. A decisive move by the Mexican. There's Willie Motolo looking at his watch. or doing something with his wrist at the same time. Well, he may be doing what he did in New York, which really surprised a lot of people. He's taking he's taking a tablet in order to boost his blood sugar, but it may be a bit late for that. As we hit the 2 hours mark, Willy Motolo is in third place behind Dionicio Ceron of Mexico and Simon Robert Naali of Tanzania. Now we shall be back with the culmination of the Rotterdam Marathon in a couple of minutes' time. Please join us then. We're into the last few kilometers of the Rotterdam Marathon. Just having a reprise of Willy Motolo doing what he did and taking some sort of blood glucose additive in tablet form. And this worried a lot of people when he did it in New York last year, because shortly afterwards he shot off into the lead and won the race. However, he's only lying in third here today in Rotterdam, some way back of Dionicio Ceron of Mexico and Simon Robert Naali of Tanzania. He takes a sponge. Willy Motolo ran 2 marathons last year, won both of them, didn't run the Olympic race because he was ill when the South African Championship race was held a year back. This is the race leader. He did run in the Olympics, had a disaster, one of the many people to drop out, Ceron, but he's in a good lead at the moment and looking to go one better than he did 2 years ago when he finished second in this Rotterdam race. That again is third place, Willy Motolo of South Africa, looking round. I don't think he's going to see many people. He passed the guy who was the original pacemaker, Vincent Rousseau, a couple of kilometers back, and Rousseau may be finishing his first marathon after half a dozen race starts, but I don't think Willy Motolo is going to add to his 2 race victories last year. Dionicio Ceron of Mexico, his compatriot Isidro Rico finished second in London earlier today, 2 hours 10:53. Approaching the 40 kilometers mark and going back to the estuary, the River Maas and the Willemsbrücke, crossing for the second time this fast figure of 8 course. Still plenty of building going on in Rotterdam. Just about half a dozen or so minutes from the finish. A decisive break made by Ceron 2 or 3 kilometers back. Still looking very good, the Mexican. As I say, he won. His personal best time came just over a year ago in Japan. He won the Oita race, 2:08:36. Dropped out of the Olympic marathon in Barcelona. Come back here with a fine performance in adverse conditions, on his way to winning the Rotterdam Marathon and the $55,000 that goes with it. Big business nowadays, marathon running. That same first prize was on offer in London earlier on today, will be on offer in Boston tomorrow. That's Bert van Vlaanderen on his way to winning the Dutch Championship 3 times in a row. Van Vlaanderen entered this race 2 years ago as a pacemaker, carried on and finished. The same trick that Vincent Rousseau of Belgium is playing on us today. Aerial view of the Maas and some of the flattest marathon course in the world, but it hasn't produced some of the fastest times in the world today. Incessant rain since the 2nd kilometre has meant that race times are being kept down. They're not even going to break 2:10 here today. Van Vlaanderen is back in around about 4th or 5th place. That's number 2. Race leader Dionicio Ceron of Mexico, back with Van Vlaanderen. National Championship and his 3rd title. Looking sewn up, although he doesn't look too happy about it at the moment. Who would? The conditions are pretty appalling out there. less than 10 degrees Celsius. Quite a strong breeze and incessant rain have made for appalling race conditions. Hasn't stopped this man, Dionicio Ceron, however. He's got about 5 minutes left to run, and Van Vlonderen's got about 6 or 7 minutes left to run. Two years ago, Ceron had to give best to the veteran Rob de Castella, the Australian who retired today after finishing 33rd in London. Another look at national champion, defending his title by the looks of it successfully, Bert van Vlonderen. Not exactly sure where he is placed at the moment. Don't think it's in the first 5. Dionicio Ceron of Mexico leads from Simon Robert Naali, Willy Matolo, Vincent Rousseau. There's also the Finn Harri Hänninen in there somewhere. Concentrating, however, on race leader at the moment, Dionicio Ceron. 27 years of age, Ceron. And he's within 5 minutes of winning his first Rotterdam Marathon. Finished second 2 years back. Looking again at Van Vlonderen. Now let's see where he is exactly. Well, he certainly seems detached. Nobody behind him. And who is this up in front? It's Rousseau. Vincent Rousseau started this race as a pacemaker. Didn't drop out at 25 kilometers, as was foreseen. Weather conditions were certainly in his favor today. Doesn't like the hot weather. He's more or less given up championship running, Rousseau. He's in there for the dollars. Says his next race is going to be the World Half Marathon Championship in Brussels, in his home country. That's Matolo, pre-race favourite Willy Matolo of South Africa. So back of him, Rousseau of Belgium. Back of him, Van Vlonderen of the Netherlands. Front of him certainly is Dionicio Ceron of Mexico and Simon Robert Naali. Don't quite know what's happened to Harri Hänninen of Finland. He looked to be catching the Belgian Rousseau at one point. We've got about, the race leader's got about 4 minutes left to run or less. Racing away from Matolo there. Let's see who's going to come out. There is Hänninen. Harri Hänninen's run an absolutely tremendous race. Set his personal best when he finished in the first 10 in London last year. 2:12:29 in London, Hänninen. Now that got him a selection, fairly late selection to the Olympic Games. Finished 11th in Barcelona, and he's come through like a train, Hänninen, and run very well indeed. He's not going to catch Dionicio Ceron of Mexico, who appears to be well away to his first Rotterdam victory. He's within about, he's into the last kilometre, must be into his last kilometre. That's Harri Hänninen of Finland. We've not seen Simon Robert Naali for a while, the Tanzanian, who was the long-time race leader along with Vincent Rousseau. We're probably going to pick him up now. And if we do, then he looks as if he will be well secure in second position. But Hänninen came through very well indeed. Yes, there's the Tanzanian, number 7, Simon Robert Naali. He was passed by Ceron about 5 kilometres ago, after he was the one who chased Vincent Rousseau out of the pack. And there is Ceron. About 2.5 minutes left. Ceron leads. This man is second, Simon Robert Naali of Tanzania, re-establishing himself as the best of the Naali brothers, because Thomas Robert dropped out of London today. This is the eldest of the 3 marathon running Tanzanian brothers, all named Robert Naali. This is Simon Robert. That's Dionicio Ceron in Mexico, well on his way to victory. Simon Robert Naali. Thomas Robert dropped out after 10k in London today. Francis Robert Naali, he's not running anywhere as far as we know. He may have run Vienna. I think he did last year actually. Vienna was won by Carlos Patricio of Portugal. This is Dionicio Ceron. That is Simon Robert Naali of Tanzania. Back of him, the surprise of the day, Harri Hänninen of Finland has raced through to third after a very tactical race. Ceron still looking very good. Second 2 years ago to the veteran Aussie Rob de Castella. Took this race by the scruff of the neck about 5 kilometres ago, and he's got less than a kilometre to run now. In fact, less than 500 metres to run. He's in the last quarter mile, last 400 metres for Dionicio Ceron of Mexico. Who cares about a fast time when you're going to win your first major race of the year? Dropped out of the Olympic marathon, but Dionicio Ceron, second place here 2 years ago, is coming in to win the Rotterdam Marathon 1993. It's going to be around 2 hours 11. Simon Robert Naali is in second place. Harri Hänninen of Finland is third. Great run, good tactical racing by Ceron. He was running in third or fourth place with Willy Matolo, the other pre-race favourite, for most of the race. Broke away round about the 35k mark. There he is, Dionicio Ceron wins the Rotterdam Marathon 93, 2 hours 11 minutes and 8 seconds. Wins himself over $50,000 as well. And that's Mario Cadix, the race promoter. That is Simon Robert Naali of Tanzania, as I said, re-establishing himself as the family marathon champion. A happy Dionicio Ceron. Number 7, Simon Robert Naali, is assured of second place, but Harri Hänninen of Finland coming through. Now this is an extraordinary thing. Hänninen of Finland is running a personal best here. He's the only man who's running his fastest time of his career. Simon Robert Naali finishes second, 2:11:45. Harri Hänninen is chasing 2:12 here. He's going to be half a minute inside his best. He just does it. 2:11:59 for Harri Hänninen, and the effort of that last couple of kilometres has really taken its toll on Hänninen. Absolutely exhausted. Willy Matolo isn't exhausted, but he still looks as bad. Rain's still pouring down here. Number 13 was Harri Hänninen, he was third. Willy Matolo, pre-race favourite from South Africa, is finishing in fourth place. It is in fact 2:12:34, not 2:11:44. If you see the race clock up in the left-hand corner, that's correct. There's Vincent Rousseau, started as a pacemaker, carried on. This is his debut finish, although he started 5 marathons. Back of him is Bert van Vlonderen, the Dutch champion. Rousseau is actually going to qualify, if he wishes, for the Belgian national team for the Stuttgart World Championships later in this summer. Finishing very quickly is van Vlonderen behind him, but he's not going to catch him. Vincent Rousseau, the pacemaker, hangs on, 2:13:11. Bert van Vlonderen, 2:13:16. That was the Rotterdam Marathon 1993. Back there's another Dutchman, John Vermeulen, just beaten by van Vlonderen. These are the race results. Dionicio Ceron, 2:11:08. Simon Robert Naali, 2:11:45. Great run from the Finn, personal best. Harri Hänninen, appalling conditions. He ran 2:11:59. Race favourite Willy Matolo finished fourth. Women's race was won by Anne van Schuppen. This is Pat Butcher saying thanks for being with us at Rotterdam 93.